Welcome to Around the Districts. I'm Gabrielle Mazar.
Nancy Tapuzian.
And today's episode, we're going to talk about protests. So there's been tons of protests all over. We've had the hands off protests, the No Kings protests. We've had local protests with Tempe Rising. And so we're just going to talk about what they do and how to get involved in them and the effects that the protests are actually having. So, um, I've been to quite a few of them. I know you've hosted quite a few of
I've
them. So
been
what
hosting since February.
what can people do? Like what happens at a protest?
So at a protest, I first started with Tesla protest. Um, we have had cars try to run us over. Just let you know, we've had cars, people get out and tell us a few choice words, telling us they're coming back to shoot us all up. But unfortunately, the cops saw him and got pulled over right away because he was doing something illegally with traffic. But we've had Elon Musk pay for these little co-conspirators. We had 50 to 75 across the street. Um, all they are these little white boys that just want to go against whatever we're saying. Being the shy person I am, I go over there and ask them why they're here, and they really don't know. They don't even know what they're against. They just know that they're supposed to be against it. So of course, being the smart aleck I sometimes could be, I told them that protesters hate when people honk. So they all came out of this parking lot honking.
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's really
it worked. It worked. So anyway, we then on April 5th, there was a big national protest. We moved over to a bridge just thought because we thought it was cool. And April 5th was not about Musk, so it was all about hands off. So we moved over to a bridge and we haven't left. And it's amazing. It's a pedestrian bridge. There's no cars up there. Nobody's running us over, which is nice to see. Anybody who does come up there that wants to be a co-conspirator, you don't have like a place to go. So that makes it nice because we can surround you probably quicker than you can do anything. So it's a pretty safe place. We do have people that go through de-escalation training to know how to de-escalate the people. That's if anything does happen up there. I do thank PC 12, who's had a lot of volunteers be part of our de-escalation team. So I'm very thankful for them. Um, I was in DC last weekend talking with Mark Kelly, and all he keeps telling us is our protests are working. So we will continue to protest. There's actually a breeze up on the bridge, and I've actually taken a temperature gauge up there, and it's actually 8 degrees cooler on the bridge because of the breeze than it is down below. So that's always good that it is cooler. We do it very early in the morning because I want to make sure that nobody gets heat stroke up there. We do bring lots of water. Hopefully, other people bring water. There's actually some shade from trees and from the bridge itself. But if anything, there's a whole park right next to us that people can go down and be in shade if need be. If they're feeling overheated or something like that.
Yeah,
But
so
the protests are working.
that's one of the protests, and obviously the No Kings I think is over 1,200 protests around the U.S.
Yeah.
We've been seeing this whole thing going on in L.A. as well, with them sending with Trump sending the National Guard and then sending the military, and there's a lot of propaganda around that. Obviously, you do see counter protesters, you do see people throwing stuff at cops, and I haven't seen any at any of the protests that I've been to, and
No,
I've been to quite a few. I don't think you have either.
I
And
have not.
we obviously know that it happens, but especially in LA, those protests are largely peaceful. So this there is a propaganda machine. We do know that. So we just have to keep going out and building momentum and growing that all over the US, especially here. I don't even know how many there are here just locally. I think for the No Kings and the.
We probably in Arizona have, like, at least Arizona itself, about 60,
That's
at
huge.
least.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
huge. So we're talking, I think how many was it the last one, the no hands off? I think there were 3,000 people on that bridge that came.
yeah. We had a lot.
And it's not a huge bridge.
Well, 356 feet long,
Yeah, but
14 feet wide.
I mean it goes across the highway, but it's not, I mean, we're
Right.
it's
It was
pretty
packed.
it's impressive to see that many people and coming through, and our voices are being heard. It is making an impact because we know that the biggest fear that our senators and our representatives and the people that are supposed to represent us, their biggest fear is losing votes. So the more we speak out, the more we raise up, the more we raise hell in a peaceful way, the more our voices are going to be heard because they don't want to lose their jobs.
Right.
They want the power of being in that position. And if we are showing them that this is not what we want. I mean, the polls are clearly showing that what they're doing is wildly, wildly unpopular. The bills that they're putting forth, this budget bill that they're putting forth is wildly unpopular, not just on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side as well. So, we're speaking out and these protests aren't stopping. They're consistent. We're consistently having them and growing momentum with them and building them all across the United States.
Yeah, and not only, like, here, I am in a more of a blue area, but we have protests in red areas, and when they start coming out, other people in those red areas are like, "I didn't even know there were any other pro-democracy people in my area." So those are actually building more and more and more. We had thousands in Flagstaff. Well, Flagstaff's a little blue. In Tucson, we've got in Prescott and Sedona and Show Low and Payson. We're like all over the place.
Yeah.
And
But
so
even in those blue areas, I
those are red
think.
areas that I just mentioned.
But right,
Right.
but I mean, even like up in Flagstaff or down in Tucson, even in some of those areas too. Like if we talk about going more in the outskirts, there are people that live in Show Low or Pine Top or Prescott that are Democrats
Yeah.
that are probably more afraid to speak out. I mean, I know a few that put signs in their yards that are speaking out and say screw you, but there are a lot that don't really say who they, you know, associate with, or they're afraid to talk about it because it's such a red area. But just because it is a red area doesn't mean that those people don't agree with you, that they aren't pro-democracy.
Right.
It so it's red and they always vote red, but they still wanna vote for democracy. They still wanna, you know, preserve what we have.
And we're actually a pro-democracy, pro-constitutional group. And so we are very pro-Constitution, and Trump, that person, is trying to get rid of our Constitution. So that means we don't have any, you know, blueprint.
I think what we need to remember when we are at protests is to peacefully protest. I think what's happening
Absolutely.
now and what they're trying to do in LA and California is to provoke people and to say, see, this is what's happening at protests, and you need to be angry and you need to be mad. But we're not. I mean, we're mad, but we need to go and we need to peacefully protest and still have our voices heard and not be provoked by that and not be, thinking that this is what's happening just because the propaganda is telling us, just because, they're sending the National Guard and they're sending in the military to this. We've seen ICE raids here in Arizona before, and we didn't like it. We didn't like it. And Sheriff Opiro was charged and convicted. And, now what's happening it's not okay. So we need to keep standing up for it. And people are standing up and they're saying no to this. And that's what we need to continue doing. But we need to do it peacefully because they are arresting people. And I think they're arresting people and charging people. I think it was the David Huerta, who was the president of I think he's a labor person, labor union in California. He's been charged because of the ICE raids. They arrested him, and he's been charged with, I think, impeding um, ICE arrests. And he was sitting outside and not even doing anything. And so I think that we just have to be very careful and not allow them to take advantage of people just because we are there and trying to have our voices heard. So, that's what we need to do while we're at
Right.
these protests, but still go out and have our voices heard.
Absolutely. And we're very big on de-escalation, um, especially since we started at Tesla where they wanted to run us over. But what they would do is they would try to run us over, and then when anybody wanted to say something back, that's when they started videotaping. So they will never videotape ahead of time, but
Oh yeah, they're not going
there's
to videotape them provoking you.
no. And so there's enough of us to stop anybody who wants to get vocal against them because that's what they want to show. And especially on the bridge, we do the same thing. We're always de-escalate. We're not having to just de-escalate. We're a pretty mellow group, but we have de-escalating people up on the bridge if we ever need it. I always like to have an umbrella before we need the
I
umbrella.
think people have a hard time finding this information. So where do they find, like, where do people find where these protests are? I think I don't even know how I found out about the no keys. Maybe Mobilize,
Probably
because
mobilize.
I think when I attended the hands off, but I think it's kind of it's hasn't been super easy for me to find these. Where do
Well,
people find the information about the protests?
Well, if you're gonna go for the No Kings, you can go into nokings.org, and then there's a map, and you can find the map. If you sign up for an event, you'll then get from Mobilize, "Hey, you went to this event. Here's another suggestion." If you don't sign up for the event, one, you won't see if we do a time change, which I did do a time change, but you won't get that information either. So I understand why some people don't want to sign up, but when you sign up, that's what you'll get. But Mobilize is where you'll find most of the stuff. Our group is always protesting, so if you go to Tempe Rising, you will definitely, which you'll have the link for them, you'll be able to see where our protests are or what protests we're supporting if we do protests on Saturdays, and we support if somebody has a protest during the week somewhere else.
Yeah, we
So,
definitely need to get involved. Keep protesting. Keep being peaceful. Don't let people provoke you. Don't let someone that's standing there. I was at a um, protests a while back, and there were people standing out there with guns and trying to provoke people, and there were some people that did get upset. There were people that just had conversation with them, and most of the people just walk by. Let those people be angry, let them do their thing, but you walk by and just let them be. Don't allow yourself to be baited by people. Just go and show support. The messages and the numbers, and they know why we're there. They know that we're here to support this cause, and that we're doing this locally, and we want it to be huge across the entire nation, to know that everyone is feeling the same about this. It's
mhm,
just, this sucks. This all
yeah.
just sucks.
Uh,
It sucks that we have to speak so loud, but the squeaky wheel, right? We are now
yeah.
gonna be the squeaky wheel.
It's about time.
It's about
It's about
time.
time
That's
because we,
right.
the people, have to put it back into our own hands.
Yeah. So, Mobilize is a great place. No Kings is a great place. Tempe Rising is a great place to find information on any protests if you want to get involved. So, find those. I'll post those in the show notes as well. So, please, if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to us here and ask questions. And we're happy to help you find any protests and to give you any positive shows of love here. But thank you for listening today. This is the Around the District podcast. Please like and share, and we will see you next time.